boy.
I'm trying to keep you short.
We're going to start the meeting now, everybody. This is going to be a little unorthodox to start because, as you can see, the mayor and the mayor pro tem are both absent tonight. We can still proceed with having a meeting from a housekeeping standpoint procedurally before you can proceed with any business on the agenda. What needs to happen is one of your number on the board it needs to be appointed as mayor pro tem for this meeting only. Commissioner Stack will be mayor pro tem after tonight, but somebody has to sit as the chair, as it were, to administer the meeting. So before we get started from
I
here,
make a motion that William Neighbors be railroaded in for mayor tonight.
I second.
all right, go ahead and vote on that.
We got a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Is that a joke?
All right. So sorry it's a little bit late. We had to do a little bit of procedure, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you would, if everybody would stand with me and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to ask Commissioner Hawley if you would please give thanks.
Father, we come before you tonight just thanking you for today, thanking you for all your many blessings that you have bestowed again for us today. We are just so grateful, God. Just thinking about all that could have happened today that did not happen with the storms, tornado warnings, and things like that. We are so gracious, God. We pray tonight for the people that have encountered those tornadoes and those storms. We pray blessings, many blessings upon them. And then, Father, as we conduct the business of the town tonight, let us move selves out of the way. And we are voted in by our constituents, so we have to consider what is best for them. So I thank you right now in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have any changes or a motion to approve it as it is?
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner McClam. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Next on the agenda, the oaths of office. Kim, you want to do that?
Angie's gonna do it.
Angie's going to do that? Okay.
Brandon, you can come up. Okay. Yeah. All right. Raise your right hand, and then I'm going to say I, and you say your name, then I'm gonna read it all, and once I get through, just say, so help me God. Okay? I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, that I will be alert and vigilant to enforce the criminal laws of this state, that I will not be influenced in any manner on account of personal bias or prejudice, and that I will faithfully and impartially execute the duties of my office as a law enforcement officer according to the best of my skill, abilities, and judgment. So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And did you want to say a few words? Yeah, you can come right here.
Well, welcome town and commissioners and appointed individuals. This is a pleasure. I'm glad that I was able to join the police force here with Benson. I love Benson. I've worked this whole last week and this week. Small town, but we're growing and it's going to get a big town, I can see. I'm just really excited. I'm an old man getting into a young man game, but you know, seeing and being active is actually keeping me and my mindset, my heart pretty healthy. So I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be part of this town. So thank you guys.
We look forward to having you, Brandon.
I'm aboard.
Yes,
moving along, the next item on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any discussion about any of the minutes, or do we have a motion to approve it?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, all of them.
All right, we've got a motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Rayner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, say aye. All right, been approved. All right. Department reports, we all had department reports in the packets. We have any discussions or questions from the department directors about those? Okay. How did, Derek, how'd your interview go on the 11th? Didn't you have an interview on the 11th with the library board?
I'm trying to think what,
Librarian certification?
oh, yes.
Have you heard
I'm
back from
sorry.
that yet?
Sorry, guys. It has been a long week. I just rolled back in town. I've been in Chapel Hill at School of Government this week, so my mind's not even like on that. I did find out, I think it was last Monday, I have been approved for my state certification, so I am now a state certified public librarian. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Moving on, we're gonna move to the public hearing, and since Mayor Medlin's not here, I'm gonna turn it over to Kim to take care of that.
So this is going to be a public hearing for the Crosspoint Logistics Center. It is for an economic development incentive grant. So whereas the town of Benson is committed to creating a better quality of life through economic development for all citizens, and whereas the town of Benson realizes and understands the current condition of the economy, and whereas the town of Benson receives great direct and indirect benefits from manufacturing facilities being located within the town of Benson corporate limits, and whereas the town of Benson recognizes the need and opportunity for manufacturing facilities within the town, and whereas the more manufacturing facilities in the town of Benson will help diversify and stabilize the local economy from fluctuations in various sectors, and whereas the town of Benson seeks to actively recruit and retain manufacturing facilities, and now therefore be it resolved that the town of Benson Board of Commissioners fully support a cascading economic development inducement of the expandable Class A speculative industrial logistics facility that will cause the creation of new jobs, encourage business and industry to locate in the town of Benson, and will promote business in the town. Project would receive a grant equal to 50% of property taxes paid to the town of Benson in the first tax year as aligned with the Johnston County Economic Development Incentive Grant, 40% in the second year, 30% in the third year, 25% in the fourth year, 20% in the fifth year, 15% in the sixth year, and 10% in the seventh year. There will be no grant given after the seventh tax year following the issuance of the certificate of occupancy. And if you notice on the second page, now this is based off of what the estimated investment of the building is. Obviously, once the CO is issued and the tax office gives a tax value, it will be those numbers. But the estimated cost is $40 million. So the first year they would receive $110,000. The second year would be $88,000. The third year $66,000. The fourth year $55,000. The fifth year $44,000. The sixth year $33,000, and the seventh year $22,000. Total incentive would equal $418,000. And in that 7 years, the town would receive $1,122,000. And then obviously in the 8th year, we would get full benefit from taxes. So, if y'all have any questions?
I don't think so, not right now.
I have one just for point of clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that they sell it twice, does the tax benefit carries on with it no matter who owns the property?
I think, yeah.
It would run forward. Generally, that's gonna be something that's covered by the agreement. Usually what you draft in that, for instance, like what we did recently, something very similar with Chicopee, with Barry, is that it would be assignable to a company that bought them, or a successor in interest such as that. It's not necessarily automatic, but if they were bought out or changed their name or something like that were to happen, if they went out of business or something, it could be foreseeable that, you know, whoever came in and bought that wouldn't necessarily be entitled to claim the benefit, and that's gonna be written with particularity in the agreement. If it is just a successor entity though, in the normal course of business, then typically they would inure to their benefit, for the remainder of that time too.
Okay, cool.
As long as they're carrying on the business and continue with, the activity that we've agreed upon they're gonna do out there, in exchange for the grant.
And one thing I need to note too, this incentive would happen when they annex into the town.
There's two things on that. I don't wanna, there's not anything to cloud up, but when you consider this, certainly when you get to the point of considering approval of it, two conditions need to be, included, and we can even amend the resolution. I suggest we do. Kim just said one, and that's sort of a catch-22, or, you know, sort of speaks for itself requirement. If we are to give them tax incentive rebates or credit them back on taxes they've paid to the town, which is what we've done in the past with the hotel, what you've done in the past with Chicopee most recently, obviously they'd have to pay taxes in the first place, and they would not do that were they not annexed into the town. So it's a little bit built in to a certain extent, but I think let's make that clear in the approval of it, that it is also contingent, obviously, on them annexing the property into the town. And then also that it's contingent on a mutually agreeable economic incentive grant agreement, at least satisfactory to the town attorney, that the board could approve at a later date. Typically, I don't know about the time frame for this particular company. With Chicopee, I'll give you some, just for food for thought, I think it was about 9 or 10 months before we finally had a final draft, so that's not anything we need to worry about approving tonight. It's not even really a time to do that. The documents aren't prepared, and we haven't had those negotiations with them. But those two contingencies, annexing into the town and them executing a satisfactory grant agreement contract, because the grant to provide to them must be in writing under state law.
All right. I just want to say one thing. I hate that Mayor Mellon's not here, because I know that him and Fred and I know our town staff's worked hard on this, but I saw some comments on Facebook on our some of our keyboard warriors. That's what I like to call them, because they always say something on our Facebook posts when we do stuff like this. I just want to make sure that I understand this correctly. I don't like the word incentive. They are currently in the ETJ. They are asking for a tax incentive based upon them annexing in the town, which is their choice. They do not have to choose to annex in the town, and if they did not choose to, then we would get 0 tax dollars from it. So they are choosing to do so, and so therefore we are giving them a grant based on tax that they're choosing to pay in the future, and we're not taking money out of the coffers of the taxpayers that are currently in our savings account to give them this money. I just want to make sure for our YouTubers that that's transparent. I know that's the best way I know how to put it.
Yeah, and I can tell you what the process is, because we do this with the Benson Hotel Group. So they get their tax bill, they pay it, they send us a copy of their tax bill and a copy of their canceled check. And then once that is done, I confirm with the tax office, or Angie would confirm with the tax office, that it has been in fact paid, and then that's when a check is issued. And if y'all recall with the Benson Hotel Group, we come to the board and say, this is what we have before the board approves that incentive even before we pay it out. So it's usually in your consent agenda, there's a memo that with all the documentation showing that everything's been paid, and then once it's approved with the board, we'll pay it out. So it would be the exact same process.
Something else, this is on a investment of $40 million. Say it goes 50. The only thing that's written in stone here is the percentage.
Correct.
Right. The figure is not.
Correct. So it'll be whatever the tax value is at the time of the CO. So, yeah, this is, we got a $40 million estimate from the builders. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. It could change. It could go up. It could go down.
Right.
So, yep.
So to follow procedure, unless I'm wrong at this point in time, I'm just going to call the open hearing open. And if there's no more discussion from the board, I'm going to invite any of those members that are here present that would like to speak for the project. Anybody in the audience that wants to come and speak for the project. Nobody coming forward. I'm gonna ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to come and speak against the incentives for this project. All right. That being said, I'm gonna close the public hearing. Any discussion from the board? No discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I make that motion that we approve the
Contingent.
incentive proposal that's being brought before us.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Chandler that we approve contingent upon the annexation of the property into the city limits and upon an agreement satisfactorily delivered to our attorney for the incentives. If I can amend that for you, is that okay? I
Yes.
named that?
Yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. All right, new business. So, I'm gonna turn it over to Angie for the, consider approval of Dana Beasley to the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, in your package, you'll see that you have, application for Dana Beasley for issue of it would be the ETJ, so, and he has vacancies, so I just need your approval for her to be on that board.
I make a motion, we approve Dana Beasley to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
All right, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Rayner. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
We-
Yes, ma'am.
While we are in the motion and business, I would like to remove myself from Parks and Recreation, and I told the mayor the last time, I don't know if it's been done, but I want it done. And Will Chandler has offered to take my place.
All
So
right.
can we get that approved?
I make a motion that you step
Be
down
removed.
from the Parks and Recreation Board and you have it on in her place.
Yes.
All right.
Is that right? Okay,
Mhm.
that's the motion.
Yeah, that's the
I've
motion.
got a motion from Commissioner Rayner to appoint Will Chandler in the place of Commissioner Hawley on the Parks and Rec Board. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. All right. Purchase orders over $10,000. Get ready.
Yeah, Gary. She already knows it's coming.
Yeah, I already know, and that's why I'm on, okay. This is,
Point that
it's gonna be
finger.
turned over to Kim.
All right.
No, this is a PO, for Leah Electrical in the amount of $12,000. It is to change out 2 poles at Old PNC Bank. So we just need your approval, and I know what the question is gonna be. Why are we contracting this service out when we have just, have C-phase?
The fact is, because we still don't have the staff that can do it. I mean, we have a lineman A and I have a class B, but the other 3 don't have the expertise to get up there. So my question to them was, if I called C-phase and had, them send another lineman A for the day and let's get up there and do it. They're still, they're at a standstill. They're not going to know all the things that need to get done to get it up there. So the process would take longer. You just don't have the expertise in the staff to do the job right now. So now, obviously, you can not approve it tonight, and that's fine, and I can go back and talk with them some more. But they've got to rebuild a bank of transformers, and they've got to add a new service.
Phase pole by
Well,
itself?
it's not, they can do the pole. It's not the pole in itself. It's the fact that they've got to rebuild that bank of transformers, and we just don't have, Greg can walk them through it, but Greg can't do it by himself. He'll need some hands that can help.
I got a 3-phase one.
Yeah.
Surrounded, but the building, they're not gonna need the 3-phase. They don't have 3-phase going in there to anything, but the bank does not handle what they're putting in. It's just gotta be upgraded.
And this is, they estimate high a lot of times. And so, but 12,000 is high. I understand that. And
that's what us supplying the poles, correct?
yes, we're supplying the materials. But now, there will be some payment from the dentist office. We have some fees that they'll have to pay for us to do this. It's not, you know, obviously it's not the full cost, but yeah.
So what is
So-
the full cost?
But I'm saying it's not gonna cover this $12,000 coming from the dentist office. Their fee's only like, because it's less than 100 feet, so their fee's only $400, so we're not recouping the cost by any means. I mean, eventually we will through utility bills, but we're not gonna recoup it for this one job.
My question is, if both of the positions get filled,
Mm-hmm.
would we have to contract it out?
I would not think we would, no. I would think you would have, because you'd have an A, you'd have essentially two A's, because your crew leader and your superintendent are gonna be lineman A's, and then you'd have that B. And then they, in the process, would have time to train these younger individuals to move up. They'd have, you know, I would think later, once we have a full staff, you'd have some more expertise up there. You could get the job done with our staff.
But ain't the guys that are Class Bs, they're losing expertise and hours to get an A because we're contracting stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I asked the question more than once. If I get two guys, if I get one guy from C-Phase, can you guys do the job? They don't feel comfortable doing it right now. He did not feel comfortable with the.
Who don't feel comfortable?
The who is not the one we're contracting in, but the Garrett. He said we don't.
Even with two class, because
Well, you've only got one class.
right, if we got another Class A from C-Phase for that one day, that's two Class A's. It'd be the same thing if we filled both positions of Class A.
Yeah.
So is Garrett gonna come back and say he don't feel comfortable then?
No, I don't think he would. But I think what his concern is, you're gonna have two guys up in the bucket, and you're gonna have nobody down on the ground that can kind of work through. You know, you got to do this to switch this out, and be able to get the job done properly. So that's why they've asked. Now, like I said, you guys can deny it tonight. We can regroup again, but
Can C-Phase send somebody else
I'm sure they can. Yeah.
at a cost?
Yes, at a cost to us.
At how much?
I'd have to
Was
pull
it
up their.
72 an hour?
Yeah, for an A. Yeah.
Kim, are we still paying C-Phase for their services when Lee Electric is doing it?
Well, you're paying Greg to be here, yeah, but they're doing others. They're off doing other jobs. I mean, they are behind, so they're off doing other services.
I think the big question for me is, where does this, if we don't approve it and we go back to C-Phase to see if they can send two guys to do it at a cheaper rate,
Mhm.
on an hourly rate, where does that put the business owner? Where does that delay him from being able to open up his business, or how does that affect?
I don't think it does. I'm not sure what the wait time has been so far. I mean, he brought me this last week, so I think you're still at a good time frame that if we need to hold back, then we absolutely can. I also don't, you know. Yeah. I think if we have to bring it back to the board in 2 weeks, I still think you've got some time. I mean, the lead time right now is 60 days on getting work done, so we're not close to that.
How many people does it take to set a pole? You said two in the bucket and one on the ground?
To set the pole?
Two
to set it.
to set it, and then what? Two on the ground, probably pulling materials
C-Phase sent us 4 Class A's at $72 an hour for
It's
one
still
day.
cheaper.
It's
with a
still-
truck. Keep in mind a
with the
truck. So yeah, but it's still
much
probably would be
cheaper than
cheaper.
$12,000.
Mhm, probably, yeah.
Let me make a motion. Whenever you open the floor up.
I don't have to open it. You can make a motion anytime.
I'd like to make a motion that we put that on hold for the
Okay.
next couple of weeks and see if you can renegotiate with them.
Okay.
We've got a motion from Commissioner Holly to table it for 2 more weeks to see if we can get some other numbers from C-Phase or Lee or somebody. So, any other discussion? All those in
And
favor?
both of them have Lee Electric come down and looked at it, and also C-Phase?
I'm sure Greg has looked at it. Yes. And he would be C-Phase. Now Aaron has not been down here to look at it, and that's the guy that I talk to when we need stuff. But Richard's looked at it from Lee Electric.
Well, I looked at it, and I don't know what I'm looking at. They've got poles run and transformers all the way and lines going to the building, and I'm still not sure. I mentioned that to you,
Yeah.
$12,000. It's not who we're getting to do it. It's the 12,000 as to why we're
Right.
taking on that expense of
Yeah.
doing it.
I got a motion on the floor, Commissioner.
Okay.
There's a motion to table this for 2 weeks from Commissioner Holly. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, let's table
All
it
right.
for 2 weeks.
Thank y'all.
All right, Kim, I'm gonna turn it back over to you for item C for approval of the CDBGI construction grant.
Okay. So, again, we got approved for a construction grant with CDBGI. If you recall, we've had the planning grant. We've been approved for the planning, and so this is the construction side. So I've got to read the letter again. As mentioned in your April 21st, 2021 letter, the State Water Infrastructure Authority selected your application for CDBGI funding through an initial planning grant and a second larger construction grant with construction funds contingent upon appropriation of fiscal year 21 CDBG infrastructure funds. As stated in your March 2nd, 2022 award letter, your second grant was officially awarded on February 9th, 2022. This letter is your official notice of intent to fund your second larger construction grant totaling $1,910,404 to fund activities from plans and specifications through construction. The project will rehabilitate approximately 20,242 linear feet of 6 and 8-inch clay pipe sewer lines with the goal of eliminating inflow and infiltration on 105 to 206 North Augusta Avenue, 200 South Augusta Avenue, 304 and 309 Brooklyn Street, 100 to 703 West Church Street, 101 to 307 North Farmer Drive, 201 to 605 West Hornet Street, 103 to 603 West Hill Street, 202 to 902 North Lincoln Street, 303 to 403 West Martin Street, 202 to 206 North McLam Street, 203 to 300 South McLam Street, 100A to 703A West Parish Drive, 200 to 304 South Pine Street, 201 North McKinley Street, 303 South Riles Street, 205 to 305.5 North Wall Street, and also 300 to 709 West Main will be an alternate street if funds are available. Please note that this intent to fund is contingent on meeting all of the following milestones. Failure to meet any milestone may result in the forfeiture of CDBG funding for the proposed project. And if you see, a lot of these things we've already completed because we did those in the first round, which is good. In addition, 2 copies of your grant contracts are enclosed. No funds may be obligated or expended in any project activity until the grantee or grantor signs, dates the grant contract, and both originally signed contracts are back to the division. It's highly recommended to have the town's attorney review the grant prior to the signature. So this is requesting approval of the construction grant in the amount of $1,910,404.
Again, just for my clarity, this is a 100% grant. There's no matching fund from the
100% grant. Yep.
I make a motion that we approve.
We've got a motion for Commissioner Holly to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Kim, the floor is still yours. We're going to move over to council's priorities and principles.
Yes, and we're going to ask that we move the podium, and we have our department heads kind of come in and join us for the conversation really quick, if y'all don't mind.
Fine with me. Aaron, you didn't get to talk tonight, but it's glad to have you. I'm glad to have you back. You have been missed.
Knowledge you haven't heard me say that already.
Matter of fact, get up here in this soft seat.
That's right.
Get on this board up here. It's been a while.
Yes, it has.
You've been out longer than I've been here.
I'm very happy to be back. I know it was challenging at times while I was out, but I'm proud of everyone and the planning department for their work, holding it together and working through with the town and with the citizens. So I know it was tough for a few weeks there, but I'm glad to be back in it. It feels good. Even though I miss my babies, it feels good.
So this is going to be kind of like a mini work session or a mini retreat. We want to talk to everybody about the principles and priorities of the board for the upcoming fiscal year. We are in the process of talking about budget, but we really feel like we need to know what the board wants. We have had a meeting. We had a large staff meeting on the 17th. It was a very good staff meeting. Had more people speak up than I really thought would. Really wish it didn't have to end at 1:30 because I ended up having to kind of stop it and say, okay, we all got to go back to work now. So it was a really good meeting. I first off want to start with myself and the department heads have had a conversation, and we want the board to know that what has happened in the past, we want it to stay in the past. We feel like we have got to move on. We've got to move forward in order to get Benson where they need to be. We have a lot of ideas that we would love to share with y'all when it comes time for budget, but we want to hear what your ideas are because really we serve at the pleasure of y'all. And so we want to do what you think is best for this town just as much as we want to do what we think is best for this town. And so I'm going to pass these out. I'm sorry, I thought they were in your packet, but will you separate those for me? And so we'll get those back out to y'all. I emailed them to y'all a couple weeks ago. But I would love to start the conversation, and we can do one at a time. Y'all can all, just start chiming in, but what do you see as your priorities going forward? And let's see if we can come up with a cohesive list tonight, hopefully. If not, we can write your ideas down. We can bring them back to the next meeting and maybe approve a final list of what your priorities and principles are. If you notice, they're not up there on the board because we took them down. We really feel like let's start fresh and really get it down on paper and figure out what our next step's going to be. So if anybody wants to kind of start.
Why did you take them down? I mean, why did we not leave the as a model? Why were they not left in place?
Well, I have them back there if y'all want to. Yeah, they're back. They're in the classroom. But we really don't. I think they don't need to be the same. I think code enforcement's like number one, and that I don't think I haven't seen code enforcement really be a number one priority. I think infrastructure is number one right now for us. But and we can get them and y'all can look at them for sure. But we really want to start fresh and see if anything new pops out from y'all, even from us.
I'll go first, maybe. I was listening to some podcast the other day, and I think that as a board, I want to speak for myself here, and so obviously I'm human, I'm not perfect. So, but it was talking about leadership, and more importantly about the government's role in leadership, and what I feel like this board's role is in leadership in this town. I think many of us in our daily duties, in our businesses or whatever we do, we're all leaders. We're all leaders. We're all here because we are leaders, and that's why we have the fortune to be elected by the taxpayers. I think a lot of times our day-to-day business of meeting here every 2 times a month, we get so busy in the weeds conducting the business of the town that we fall back into a management role. And my personal belief is, even sometimes I've crossed over that line myself because it's hard for me not to do, that's not, in my opinion, and y'all may disagree, that is not the role of this board, is to manage this town. It is not the role of this board to manage the employees. It is not the role of this board to interfere in any way with the management and the employees. That is why we have an administration. And I think that sometimes those lines have been crossed. I feel like we have failed as a board, myself more maybe, as a leader. To lead, we have to have a vision. And we're all here, I would hope, because the 6 of us, or 7 of us when Jerry's here, we all probably have an individual vision for what we see for the town of Benson. I can tell you the reason I decided to run is because I'm a millennial. If you believe it or not, I'm right underneath that threshold. I'm right there. So I don't believe I'm a millennial, but they say I am. But I can tell you what bothered me growing up here, or what I would. And I hate the word change because we can't affect change, but I'm 40 years old. When I went to school here, when I grew up riding my bicycle around this town, when I was a child in this town, when many of y'all were still here and I looked up to all of y'all, there was a huge crowd of 40-year-old kids that used to ride through this town. And I'm the only one left out of that group that didn't go somewhere else, whether it be for job or education or family reasons, and I'm the only one of the group of all of the friends that I grew up with that came back. Everybody else said, we are getting the heck away from Benson. I don't want that for my children. I'm going to, my goal is to die somewhere between here and the beach. I mean, realistically, one day. But I want my children to have that same goal. I want to create the town that people look at as a model for other towns, and that people want to live here. And I think in order to do that, we've got to do a couple different things. And these are where my priorities come in. Infrastructure is important to me because we're behind on it. I feel like when we came on this board, and I'm not knocking anybody prior to me, but this is the way I feel about everything, we are a nonprofit. We are not a business, and all of us that own businesses are used to going after profit. That's how we are trained, I guess, or what our mindset is. But the way I feel about this is the same way I feel about the PTA or the Lions Club or the Lodge or anything else. I pay taxes here every year for my taxes to be spent this year because I want my family and myself to benefit from the taxes that I pay. I think when I came on this board, correct me if I'm wrong, we had about a 38 or a 40% fund balance where we had put so much money in the coffers that things weren't getting done, and the plans weren't there to be able to create that quality of life. I'm a real estate agent. People say that real estate's the most important thing and it's your most profitable thing in town and most valuable. I disagree with that. I think our quality of life is a lot more valuable than any piece of dirt. And I think that we've got the people that work for this town to give us that quality of life. And I think we just, as a board, need to give you the vision to give you those tools. As far as what I would like to do first is make sure that our services are grade A. I grew up, my business school, and didn't go to college, y'all know that, but the classes that I've taken was the Walt Disney customer service. You don't tell anybody no. You give them an option, or you make them tell you no. Max Rainer says that all the time sitting up here. You make them tell you no, that way you're not the bad guy. And I don't think there are right answers in government. I think it's trying to make a decision that's best for one or the other. So you're never right. We're going to make wrong decisions, and we're going to make good decisions. But I would like to think that as a team, if we put our heads together, we can make more right than wrong. But I would like us to spend some of that money. I know we have been spending some of that money. The legal mentality says you got to have 8%. We were a lot over 8%, and I'm not saying we need to just spend money frivolously and go down to 8%. But if our quality of life as a resident of this town is not a good quality, then we need to spend that money. And so for me, that's services, and the services I mean to are the services that I believe government was here to do. And I believe that is for the town of Benson, that is infrastructure, that is water, that is sewer, that is planning, that is police, public safety, fire. Those are my top priorities. That is what I moved into Benson for, because when I grew up on a farm in the country, 3.7 miles outside of town. I wasn't a Benson resident growing up. I had to ride 4 miles to get here to be with my friends on a bicycle. So, but when I came here, compared to when I was a kid, something went wrong on the farm, I had to wait 45 minutes for a sheriff deputy. I like knowing I can text my police chief. That's worth a lot of money to me. That's worth me paying more taxes to be able to do that. And I think that's what we've got to sell. I like the fact that I can call the fire chief and I know my name and I've got their cell phone number and they don't ever yell at me if I call them at 9 o'clock at night because something's going crazy. Those are the services that I'm looking for. Economic development is a dangerous word, and I know that we're pushing it and everybody is pushing it really hard. But I am a believer that economic development is a result of good services. It is not something that you aspire for. If we create the environment where people want to live, we also have to create the environment where people want to work. And so therefore we need to look after our employees. That is probably other than taxpayers' quality of life, my employees' quality of life is my second priority. We have got to put something in place to make sure that we do not do a disservice. We've got, and I'm just telling you what the future holds. Me and Commissioner Chandler talked about this the other day. We're sending a guy right now to get his inspector's license. I don't know what we're paying him. I'd have to go back and look, and that's not important. I know we're not paying him $82,000 a year and giving him a truck to ride home on every day, and that's what the county just did. A brand new truck and $82,000 a year is what they did for all their inspectors. I don't know that we can compete with that. And if we can't compete with that, we need to have a discussion, or are we either willing to raise the pays and the taxes to compete with that, or are we going to do like every other municipality other than 2 in the county and say, you know what, let the county do our inspections? I don't know what the answer to that question is. I think we've got a strong planning department. Code enforcement, we talked about that. That is important to me. But I think our environment of real estate right now is helping fix those problems itself. Do I think that it's going to go away in a few years? No, it'll probably come back in a few years whenever this bubble busts. But I think right now that's not a top priority for me. We need to do something to look after our employees, to put a pay study program into place. I don't know that we've ever had a pay study here.
We had one in 2015.
In 2015. So that's 7 years old now. You might as well say 8 because we're fixing to go into 23 budget. So, I think those are things that we need to look at. And I'm going to tell you, the employees, I don't know how we're going to pay you when the pay study comes out because I know y'all are behind. And I know that we, as a government body, are behind in doing that. But there's no way you can snap your fingers and do everybody across the town at once and it'd be fair. And that's why I say we have to come up with a plan together I work for another municipality. I know that every 4 or 5 years I'm going to get a pay study for my department. And that's what y'all are going to have to bear with us because once we start, you might not see anything for 3 or 4 years, but if we can start that program, then we can at least start chipping off that stone. That's the way I look at it. I care about Parks and Rec. I think that is the one thing that the town has over the county is our Parks and Rec department. We are in direct competition with our county, and if you don't believe it, go and look at the planning meetings that the county has. They are going to offer water and sewer to unincorporated areas to manage growth. And the big argument up there right now is land use. I sincerely hope that they push that land use and they push all of that residential back to the municipalities because we need it. We need that tax base. But what does that mean? That means it's going to be more work. And that means it's going to take more employees and more money and more options to get that. And so I'm prepared to start having those discussions, but somehow or another, last week, I don't know if y'all watched it, last week the county went to Campbell University and they had a 2-day retreat and the associations of counties came and they led that retreat. And when they left there, they had 3 to 5 priorities. We've not done anything like that in 5, 6 years. I've been here 5 years. So it was 5 years ago when we had the League of Municipalities came and do a strategic planning something with us. We've had a board retreat, but I would argue that none of us around this table are qualified to lead that board retreat. I think that's why there is a League of Municipalities. I think that's why there is a School of Government. And I've been to the School of Government classes, and I think that they are an excellent tool for us to use. I would like to see us bring them down here because somehow or another, if we've got 7 different visions, we've got to narrow it down in one so that we give them measurable goals. Because if we don't, and it doesn't matter who's in the position, if we don't give them goals that we can measure, we will never know if we're succeeding or if we're just treading water. And so I think I named all three. Did I name all three?
I got infrastructure,
Uh-huh,
quality of life,
right,
services,
right.
and public personnel,
That's,
all
I'm
inclusive.
gonna draw the line right there because I think economic development and I think code enforcement and everything else will take care of itself if we take care of those top 3 or 4. And I wanna turn the floor over to somebody else.
That's about time.
Did I do that? I'm sorry.
I thought we were getting out here early.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good gracious.
The passion comes through. So,
So you want me to go next?
whoever, yes ma'am.
Basically, I agree with what you're saying. I'm hoping somewhere down the line and somewhere some studies will be done, because as much as anything, we didn't nominate ourselves to sit on this board. We were elected by the citizens of this town. Also, when we're making decisions, we have to make decisions based on the citizens of this town and where they are. Everybody's not in a position to do the very same thing someone else is. So I think, or I know that we're gonna have to look very carefully at what we do, how we do it, how we increase, and how we decrease. But I do agree with you on infrastructure. I agree with you on some other things that you said, and I'm not gonna take up a whole lot of time. I think we do need to have more insight from the School of Governors. I know it's sort of expensive from what I can understand for those workshops, but I think they need to happen. So I agree with that, and I'm moving right along. Go on.
What if I ain't got nothing to say?
Well, then we'll
That's
move
gonna
on the
be-
other side.
That's gonna be surprising to
Yeah,
you.
we'll
ain't
do
it?
that.
Oh, that was short. No, that-
Yeah.
Now, we ain't gonna sit here with him either all night.
Uh-oh. You're not the mayor tonight.
But I'm I'll
You
be.
had that chance.
I can be.
Yeah.
All right.
I am, in agreement with William, infrastructure. We've talked about that though for years, and that's something that has to be done, and some of these other things will fall into place. But this is nothing new that's happened in the last 3-4 years since I have been absent from this board. We sat down, and when we had our staff meetings and our meetings before, it was an outside service that came in and kept us on track. And the future of this town needed to have been looked at 30 years ago, and then 20 years ago, and 10 years ago, and we preached this. The decisions that we're making tonight and the decisions we made in our retreat, which there was no decisions, that was more like a board meeting than anything else, we ought to be looking at 10 and 15 and 20 years down the road, because we're not going to be here. But maybe William's kids will still be here that's riding bikes now in town. Maybe they'll stay because we're producing something for them. We started out, I got on this board, or back on the board, and we started out with the police department. We've got the increased salaries with the police department. Well, that's old news. When I left, we needed to do the same thing, but what I was preaching then, you don't, every time somebody goes up or every time somebody's leaving, you don't go to them and say, hey, we're going to give you a $10,000 raise and we're going to send you to school and we're going to pay for it. We have got to sit down as a board and come up with, no matter what the department is, electrical, there is no sense that we ought to be in the situation right now that we have been put in with electrical. Okay? I knew Glenn back when I was on the board before. I knew at some point in time Glenn was going to leave. And I knew Glenn was going to leave before this board knew Glenn was going to leave, and nothing had been really done about it. Yeah, we brought Mark in, but we needed to be looking at that in every department. We need to be looking at it right now. We're going to an outside service to train guys. Maybe we're on the right track of doing that. And with all these departments, Matt's not going to be here once he gets that field done and it's striped and he gets teams in here. The boy's going to, he's going to retire. I mean, he's not going to live forever. Now he's got some guys under him that we've got to make sure that they're trained to walk in and take his place over. And across the board, our police chiefs, Danny, they're counting down the days. It's just like any department we have. We've got to have these people that, hey, we're not going to bring them in from Ohio or anywhere else to do your job. You've got to have somebody that is a member of Benson, that love Benson, because you're not going to make the same thing in Benson that you're going to make in Raleigh. But you're not going to have the same crap that you're going to have in Raleigh either. You've got, I'm tickled to death you have come so far. And it shows when you're out for 3 months, we were not prepared for you to be out for 3 months. And I didn't realize I was walking on the board and you wasn't up there doing your job. But it didn't take long to find out from other people around this town that we didn't have a planning department because you made decisions and nobody else could. We were bringing in outside service. Now, you're back, and it's up to us to give you the support so when you're out the next time or decide to move on, that we got somebody in your place, okay? That we don't have to go to these other departments. I feel stronger about that than ever before. Town management, we've seen it. We have seen it with town attorneys. When I came on, Mr. Parker was the town attorney. We lost him, not you. We lost him, and Jim Johnson stepped in. Jim Johnson did not want to be a town attorney, and then we had to go. We have to, every department, we have got to get them prepared for the next board that's sitting up here to say, hey, we got something to go with. And when I got on this board 15, 16 years ago, the state was fixing to come in and take it over because we were at between 6 and 7% in our reserve. And we put our foot down and said we will never go under 15%. And we have got more money, but that money and people, that's something else that we have to educate the people that put us in the office. They look and say, hey, you got 35% in capital funds. Use that money, pave my street in front of me. Well, that's not what it's for. You've got to be able to have enough to run this town for 30 days. If that tornado would have come through here today and wiped out everything. And I know you're going to love this. We're going to, I'm going to say this, but something like this right here, this is what we need a board retreat for. We cannot do a board retreat. We can't talk to these people right here in an hour and get out of here. We may need to, after this little meeting, we may need to have I know our weekends are valuable. We may need to have a day, though, set aside that we come in and do nothing but talk to them and tell them where we're going and tell them how we're going to get there and what we're looking out of them. Because I don't think they've known that in the past. I really don't. They just sitting there and they did not know where their next meal was going to come from because they hadn't been told what we wanted as a board. Whoever fault that is, that's behind us. We're going to move on to help this board and to help this staff and everybody that's in it. We've got some big projects coming up, and we've got to have everybody here. But everybody here, Alan has got to know what we're looking at, because I can look at some plans that he's got that I didn't know anything about, and he's been told one thing, and it's got to be from the mayor all the way down. We've got to understand what's coming off the board, and we don't. Okay, we've got to get some stuff from y'all, and we've got to give y'all some stuff. If you've got to have 5 employees under you to handle what you have got going, if the library's got to have 3 employees, we've got to decide as a board, okay, this is what the town wants, and we've got to let them know that this is what it's going to cost. It's going to cost, we've got to up taxes so we can get a extra $1 million in the budget to serve what they're wanting. If they want their trash picked up 5 times a week, then that's what we've got to let them know. Yes, we will get that done, but it's going to cost you 15 cents on the 100 to get that done in your taxes, because we can't just make money like the government can. So I just, taking the priorities, I kind of put that in, but this is not only priorities we're looking at. The staff is the priority of this town, and we've got to do whatever we need to do and let y'all know, hey, we can't do that. We can't give you 5 new officers. We can't give you 5 new officers at whatever the cost is, because the town does not want the increase in their taxes. We have got to do whatever we can to do whatever y'all need, but we've got to know your needs, and we've got to tell you, hey, we know where you're coming from, but we can't do that right now. But it's all about the future, because we're none promised, and I'm pretty sure that if I don't have this whole thing straightened out in 4 years, I'll put somebody else up here that don't know as much as I do about it. No, I appreciate what y'all do, but I know it's been a headache. So that's it. Go ahead, Dean.
I'm gonna keep mine short, simple.
That was
I'm gonna be short. Mine's gonna be the infrastructure, personnel, and customer service.
Okay.
Me and Commissioner Neighbors and Ike, we all met at your office. Do you remember that? Been a while back, and we started talking about division.
Yeah, that's right. You're exactly right.
And me and William was basically in line with division. So, just put it like this, my 17-year-old son says, Daddy, there's nothing to do in Benson. You know, I don't want my kids to leave. You know, I want them to grow up here. I stayed, but for him to go out on the weekends with his friends, they have to go to Smithfield, somewhere else. So, to me, I would, like to get it to where Benson can sustain good paying jobs you know, the quality of life and stuff like that for, you know, the residents and the future residents, you know, the next generation coming up. So, so that's my vision on everything and my priorities. As far as pay studies, I'm gonna say this to this board, or I think we're up for election next year, whether we run or not. So, keep in mind when you do a pay study, you better be prepared to do something about it, because a pay study is not cheap to do. It's about, I think, about $20,000, right?
A little more than that.
A little more
That's
than that
probably
now?
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do a pay study and do nothing with it, you just flush down the toilet $20,000, you know, of taxpayers' money. So to me, going forward, this board, the next board, we get a pay study done, have a plan in place to implement. So, if I got anything else, Max?
I had to listen to you. I've been thinking about what I'm
I'm
gonna say.
gonna turn it over to you. I think I said enough. No, but I appreciate everything y'all do. I know dealing with being short-staffed and stuff like that. I mean, I know it's a challenge where I work at. Believe it or not, we have our challenges too. It's across the board, everywhere you go. And believe me, it don't matter the amount of money you make an hour. You would think that if you got paid this high dollar amount, oh, it'd be better. No, it'd start coming. So personnel issues, I know you need to get the people in to do the job. Everybody coming to work, and I've said this to all my guys, I don't want nobody to wake up every morning and try to find an excuse not to come to work. You want to enjoy your job, and like where I work at, it's a real big family atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So to me, the job I held prior, I got like that. Every morning, try to find an excuse. That's the reason why I'm not there no more. So just hang in there. We're going to try to get things on the right path. Thank you for all you do. You're up.
Okay.
I was shorter than. Yeah.
You know, I got appointed about 8 or 10 years ago. I'm not sure when it was, sometime in the past. And they came here, and I had to tell people what I thought my vision of Benson was. And I said the same thing then I'm getting ready to say right now, which is I want Benson to be a beautiful little town, not a mediocre middle-sized town. And that's not mediocre is not a word I use, but y'all know what I mean. And so I still believe that. I think that we're going to be judged in our time, not by if Benson grows or not, because it's inevitable it's going to grow. It's just if we're going to be able to make it grow with keeping the quality of life the best we can. I think things are changing. Things are changing in our favor, coming to our wheelhouse. I've got a son-in-law that's a software developer and a daughter that works on the computer stuff, doing drawing CAD drawings and stuff. And they work from home. And there's he used to go to the DPAC, right across from DPAC is where his office was, and they closed their office because they all work from home. They're a giant company. And I think that I get the deal about kids saying that they don't want to live here, and maybe kids don't want to live here. But there's a lot of people that do want to live here. Families want to live here, and we need to make it the best place we can for those families because it is a beautiful place to live. I think it's heaven, and I think that there's a lot of reason for people to be here, especially, you know, in an eye doctor world. If you want to pick a bad place, if you want to pick a hell on earth, put it in the middle of an urban setting. That's awful. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of real estate downtown in the middle of Raleigh that's sitting mighty empty that wishes they had somebody to fill their space. So I think that we've got a lot of possibilities. Not only have we got money that's coming in that's going to make us be able to make the infrastructure for Benson to grow, but it's also going to be where we've got the way people are going to live. favors us as well. I think, as far as the first thing I've noticed too, and I'm not saying that I know the answer to this. I have a lot of questions and no answers, but I found with the recent battles, not battles, but experiences we've had with lawyers, that we can have an idea of the way the town's gonna run, and the lawyers can just make that change just like that. We need to continue to work proactively to make sure that we can not let lawyers tell us what's our, sorry.
President coming in.
President coming in, so not let lawyers control what we do and make us, other bad lawyers.
Other bad people lawyers.
Yeah, black hat lawyers make us do what we don't wanna do. The other thing I think we need is, and I'm not saying I understand it, I'm gonna talk about the police department and the electrical department. And I don't think, and it's a very good reason for it, like when you were explaining about how could we, about the electrical choices, I still think, and y'all thought I was kidding before, I thought that we need to drop drop one of those $40,000 employees and have 3 trainees rather than 4 trainees. They don't seem to be able to do nothing. And pay $20,000 more to get somebody in here to get an A and a B in here. If it takes dropping 2 of them, get $40,000 more. We need to pay what it takes to bring them in. And of course, that makes it where sometimes a person supervising a person might make less than them, and I know that's a problem, in a way, but that's the problem we have to get over. So I think that. I also think the police department, I think that funding the police department is one of our most important things that we can do, because we have to, first thing we have to do is protect our people. I disagree with the BLET thing, if it's the way I understand it, which is $11,000 we pay for somebody and we train them and they can just pop up and leave in a year, and or they can quit. And is that wrong?
Yeah. 2-year commitment.
Okay, but what happens if they quit?
They have to pay us back.
So what if we pay $11,000 and if they get failed?
They have to reimburse us.
Okay, good. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
All right, as long as that's good. My thought about that is we should pay for experience more. Take that $11,000 and put it on salaries and pay more to be more competitive. We're not looking for the best policeman on TV. We're looking for somebody that can do the job. So I think that it's possible to make that happen. Sometimes it seems like to me, as we sit here, that when we talk about any kind of position we're looking for some unicorn that's going to work for cheap. It's going to be a big star that's going to work for nothing, peanuts, and just feels a civil duty to do it for free. And I don't think we got a chance of that. I think we got to pay. We got to figure out how to pay, and if we have to find money somewhere, we have to do it. Now I'll tell you, one of the things that obviously the situation has made for us is the millions of dollars that we've gotten from the state. I was sitting with the person that gave us the money, and I told him, I said, I worry that we're not going to be good stewards of it, and we're not going to be able to use it to its optimal method. He looked at me dead-eyed. He said, "Yeah, you better be able to do that." So that's something that. The other thing I've heard from many directions that way is there's more money coming, and we have to have a plan in place we have to work to get something to spend, because they seem to want to give us the money, but if we don't have anything to get, they can't give it to us from thin air. We got to have something ready for that. So I'm sure y'all are doing it. I think theirs was all organized.
Give me that phone. I'll read everything.
Mine was just a random, but I think, I guess to wrap it up, the problems we've got are great problems. We are so lucky to be in a place where we've got so many opportunities, where so many parts of America and of North Carolina are not like we are. So we live in a wonderful place, and we've got abilities to cover and do things that other people don't. They really do have people moving away from their industry, moving away, and nothing's there. So I get it that we want our children to be here. I want my children to be here, but if they're not, I'll take nice families and growth and industry growth. I'll take that as the second consolation prize. So, okay, I'm through.
Okay, so what I've got out of what all of you said is, number one, everybody agrees that infrastructure is the most important. Number two, is public personnel. 3, quality of life. 4, services. And 5, customer service. Does that sound cohesive?
Does that sound like something that y'all can work for, like y'all can work towards? Can y'all bring us the needs that y'all have as department directors to ask us to achieve those goals?
Yep. Some of the things that we talked about with the staff, some of the things that they brought up. Obviously, for them, the cost of living's going up, so pay was probably the first thing that was mentioned. Their question for us is, why do we have to get an outside organization to do it? Why are we spending the money to do the pay study? Why can't, we do it in-house? And I feel like we did do that last year. Obviously, we'd have to go back and redo the numbers, and we'd have to look again. But what is the board's take? I mean, would y'all rather it come from an outside organization, or would you like it to be save some money and do it in-house? I agree. We all agreed with Dean's comment, and it was stated a few times in that staff meeting that there are too many of us that have been through pay studies, not necessarily here. I mean, I went through it at my old organization where it was done and it got put away and nobody ever saw anything happen. And I think you're correct. That would be to the detriment of our employees. So having a plan in place to be able to implement it. I think if we're going to do a pay study, we really got to be serious about the numbers and what it comes back at. But I also want to be very open with y'all and tell you that we got a phone call last week from a neighbor in town that's doing a pay study, and it changes every day, and they're not even able to pinpoint right now for the electric department specifically what that looks like. And Scott can speak to you more on that if he wants to, but I think we're in a time right now that everything changes, and so I think a pay study is a great idea, so do the employees, but I don't know that it's going to answer all our questions right now either.
And a pay study is going to take 8-9 months.
Yeah.
To get it for this budget. And if you want to kill employee morale, you do a pay study, and then I understand the 2, 3, 4 year plan, but in the past 2 years, we've moved past that. The neighboring town HR director called and said, "How are you getting electrical applicants? We don't have any. And oh, by the way, we're doing a pay study with a group out of Florida. They can't pinpoint our electric department range. So I'm calling all over the state to just try to figure out what people are doing. So the experts who are called in to do it, they can't do it with the electric department. That is what we face.
I don't want to step on any toes here, but I also agree that, and I hope y'all, the 7 of us don't have to agree. That's the great thing about government. We need to be cordial and respectful, but we don't have to agree to everything. I feel like we were presented a pretty decent study a couple of years ago at a board retreat, and this board as a whole, myself included, we failed to take any action, and that's on us as a board. I also feel like, and I'm not going to say this as a direct hit or anything, but with the electrical department, what we did at the board retreat last time, I don't agree with that either, because I feel like we didn't have the data to make that decision. We did have the data, and we did make that decision off of what other towns were doing. Here's what scares me when we did that. And yes, I understand that the vacancy is probably the most important at the time, but on the other hand, I also say that we just raised an electrical rate above any other salaried employee in the town, and I think that's a slap in the face to the people that manage that employee. I believe whoever is the manager, whoever is the department director, you just put a man in charge of a bucket truck making more than anybody else in the town, and I don't agree with that. And so I'm going to look at you as the interim manager because you took this role. Do you think you can bring to us the decisions to compensate your employees fairly if you bring the decisions to us from the data that you can gather and bring us local data from similar sized towns or even neighboring? And that's where I'm going to say, yeah, we we can't compete with Clayton, but we are.
Right.
Because we are competing, I heard another official say this last week, we are competing with wherever we can drive from my driveway. So if I want to be an engineer with the Town of Benson Fire Department, I can. But they are competing with Cary, where I've been at for 21 years almost, because I can drive there within 35 minutes. And so that is our competition, whether we agree with it or not. And so I'm going to ask you as a staff, Scott, HR Director, can you bring me data for us to tool over? I think
We're gonna have to do that this year
That's
for
right.
this budget. There's no other choice.
so.
You're not gonna get a pay study probably by the end of this year.
I can tell you as a private business, I think Max would agree, and I know Will would probably agree, and anybody else that runs employees. I've never done a pay study at my office. I try to treat my employees fairly, and I try to give them enough that they still want to come to work. That's what I look at, and sometimes I try to give them more just because I think it's the right thing to do. So, but that's where I'm coming from. So if we can save $50,000 on a pay study, and you think that you can meet the need while still looking after the taxpayer, being a good steward of the taxpayer dollars, and give us the data to justify your decision, I think we're all smart enough on this board to make those decisions. Do you agree?
I don't have to agree.
I know you don't have to agree.
I don't
Yeah,
have
that's
to
right.
agree. Whatever.
I bet you're looking at me.
I can look.
But that's my 1 out of 7 opinion.
Okay. Does anybody else have an opinion?
My 1 out of 7 opinion is, I agree that we can disagree. I think that we have to get rid of the mindset, if the Panthers have a quarterback that makes $20 million a year and a coach that makes $1 million a year, that coach can't make $21 million because the quarterback's making $20.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I know this is blunt, but if a person that's supervising electrical lineman wants to make that money, he can still be an electrical lineman.
Thank you.
He can make that money too.
My question is, what do I tell an employee when they come to me and say I can go to a neighboring town where that situation's flipped? What do I tell them? Like it is in every other town in the state.
So what he's saying is, he's been looking on the listserv, and this is we're not the only town that's in this situation. A lot of other towns are asking this in the HR listserv. What does your town manager make? And a lot of people are 10 to 15 to 20% above their highest paid employee, and that's where, right?
That is incorrect.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is 20 to 30.
20 to 30. 20 to 30, sorry. 20 to 30% more than their highest paid employee.
Highest department,
Department.
which is, in every other town you go to, you're gonna find town manager, department heads, supervisors.
But then it doesn't seem like that would just be in general rather than electric department.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
the electric department's a different issue.
Clayton, their electric guy, we based ours on Clayton, right?
Yeah.
We said, we're gonna compete with Clayton. Clayton's town manager makes $180,000, right? The supervisor of that electric superintendent at Clayton makes more. He's making 140, you know? That is what we're dealing with. We can't get around that. And that's why I'm afraid to answer your question, can we do it? Because I don't think you're gonna like what we bring back.
But you know, and I hear y'all too, but we just ain't got it. We ain't got $1 million more for that,
Well,
$2 million.
And we,
You bring in the pharmaceutical companies and the companies that Clayton has, and people say, well, yeah, their tax is lower than ours. Yeah, they are, because those companies, look what we just looked at over there. Here's a company that's we're going to give them tax incentives, and they're still going to pay tax. You get a household here, a rooftop does not pay taxes. They think they do, but for the school systems and the utilities and the police and the fire protection, no, they don't do this. And like I was saying, that some of these people that have come and are here, they're here because it's Benson. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to put people under them that at some point in time, if they want to move on, it's some people that has grown up here that wants to be a part of Benson. That's got to be a little bit of it. It can't be the salary. We cannot compare ourselves with Clayton, a town manager making $180,000. Look at their base. How do we pay it? We can't pay it. How do they pay it? Because they have got a tax base to pay that. They've got.
And I hope it's clear, we fully realize that.
I know it's
If
clear
not
to y'all.
If it's not clear, it's ultimately going to come down to, we want to grow people into these director positions. If they're constantly turning over because they can go to Cary, we're never going to get there.
No.
That is our problem. So
But
it's not about a manager making 180 or a director making 140. Everybody in this room knows that's not going to happen.
But if we would have been
But-
there in the last 10 years with bringing up our electrical department,
You got
And-
to pay.
that's right. But if we would have done, not a study, if we would have done what we should have done and had these people stepping up and they could see the light at some point in time, I'm going to be ahead of this department, or I'm going to be a class. And Glenn could have left any time he wanted to, but Glenn came back. I like Benson. I like what I do in Benson. He could have gone anywhere and made more than Glenn was making here.
And that gets back to Commissioner Rayner's point about the unicorn. We are looking at unicorn. That's the unicorn. Everybody in this room is sitting here because we love Benson. If we didn't love Benson, we wouldn't be here. That's your unicorn. If we're not going to compete on pay, that's the only way we can do it is find those unicorns.
Huh?
And we don't have to be first. We just have to compete. And we're not competing the way we should right now. That's the problem. That's the problem. We can turn it over in our heads all we want, but when we got a lineman who can go drive to Clayton and make $20,000 more.
I'm just suggesting this, I'm not saying this is the right thing, I'm just saying what pops in my head. Maybe what we should not have is a study either by internal or by somebody that pays. But a lot of times, in my world, just cause I know it, don't mean that my 50 employees know, or 40, 50 employees, they know it. Just cause I tell them one time don't mean they know it either. So maybe what we need is not necessarily a suggestion how much to pay, but just to be made aware of how much does this position make in Clayton and Benson and Kinley.
I did that last year. I provided a packet
But again, don't,
that thick with all that information.
I think maybe we need to look at that packet again.
Okay. So
You know, again,
But you understand my frustration?
but you know, we got off on that night with, that was $1 million increase in salary.
It was not a meeting.
Yeah, it was. It was. A pretty good number. It was $1 million.
This is not a
When
meeting.
y'all added 6-month deal, and it was gonna change in 6 months, and you were gonna add these spaces empty. It was a deal.
I think we need a pay study. That's just my staff opinion. You're not gonna get it this budget year, but I think we're gonna run into this. I don't think I have the credibility of the board to bring it. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's that. I think it's that we don't know how to get the money.
Okay, all I can do is give information, right?
Yeah, I know that, but
I can't make the information change.
that got,
But
that,
that's where the board has to make hard decisions, not us.
yeah, well, there's a difference between a hard decision and raising taxes double.
But I'm just
Yeah.
giving information.
I have a question, and it may sound dumb, but, have we ever asked the current employees, what do you wanna make here? And write on a piece of paper and see where, if everyone pretty much, we hear it all the time, I love working for Benson. I love being here, we know it's not the salary. Just as an honest question, if you could, don't go crazy and say $1 million, but honest, really, what do you wanna make while you're working here? What do you feel comfortable with?
Or what do you feel like you're worth?
What do you feel like you're worth? you're worth that much, you know, write on a piece of paper, well, this is where we can meet you at. I don't know, I don't know if that's totally too simplified or unrealistic, but I just wonder what people think. What do they feel that they're worth, and how close are we to that with the staff that we have today, given everything that you can't put a price tag on? And what they would have to deal with if they went, they may be able to make more in Clayton, but they're gonna have more stress, more problems, more different set of challenges, you know? Is that a better trade-off? Do they wanna be 35 minutes away fighting traffic? I don't know.
My concern is our turnover rate tells you that. I deal with the turnover rate every day, and I'm tired.
Well, one thing I do agree with Commissioner Chandler on this, I think we're gonna have to do more in-house training. I really think that is something that this board and these employees are gonna have to look at. I'm gonna tell you something, it's hard for me to think that somebody that's been working and has no clue of how to do certain things over a period of years. That blows my mind.
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to the electrical department.
Well, you
That's what I'm
gotta,
referring
well,
to.
you gotta understand those guys, they've not really been here that long. You have a very green department. They probably, how long, no one, Cody, been here?
I've been here
Less than a year.
Straight out of school.
I think Garrett may have been here a year and a half, and then they lost Glenn and they lost Mark. So one of the and that leads me to another thing that we talked about with staff was how many of you guys know exactly what some of our staff members do on a day-to-day basis? I mean, do y'all know the extent of what Public Works does, or what electric does, or what finance does, police, fire? I mean, I know you know their generalized job, but do you know what their day-to-day looks like? And so one of the things that was brought to the table was, we would love for you guys to schedule a day and come and spend a day with the departments and see what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. I think that we talk about cross-training and we talk about succession plans. But for myself, as an assistant manager and the finance director and the procurement officer and the person in charge of IT, and name all these things, I didn't do just one job. There could be a time that I could come in my office and start my list of things I knew I needed to get that day, but I was going to get sidetracked because this project might have gone sideways and I need to go deal with that, or there might be a personnel issue in another department that I need to go deal with, or this bid's got to go out. I mean, I'm not doing just one job, I'm doing 10 jobs. And that's not just me. That's all the department heads sitting in this room, and that's also staff members. So we talk about cross-training and we talk about succession plans, but really we're understaffed and we don't have time to show somebody, to sit down with them and say, this is how to do this job, let me train you, so if I'm ever out sick, you know how to do it. I mean, up until when Angie came, I was the only one that knew how to do what was going on in finance. Now, there's somebody that can write checks and there's somebody that can pay people. That's a whole separate thing, but as far as my day-to-day in finance, general ledgers and balancing the bank and doing all those things, there was nobody that could do that, and I didn't have the time to train them, and just didn't have the manpower to do it. So we would love for you guys to, the next time you have some free time, we understand you all work, but give me a call, set up a time, go sit in a department and ride in the truck with them or see what they do on a day-to-day basis. We'll be sure to get you guys on a busy day, but we can also get you on a slow day and have those conversations with somebody other than the department heads and see what their process is. Do y'all know that we have somebody in Public Works that's on call 24/7 and all he does is pump stations? And he's probably the only one that has the knowledge of every single pump station in this town. And because he's been here for so long, And he knows that if you turn your neck this way and you do this to this pump station, it's gonna fix whatever the issue is.
And we can't pull somebody off the train under him because his pickup sticks.
Yeah, because, or we gotta,
The staffing issues got, in order for all these plans, succession plans, don't think we've not thought about that.
mhm.
But number one, we got to have the staffing to do it, and number two, we got to pay the people to keep them here.
Yeah.
Or it's a revolving door, and we're just getting by.
Yeah.
And right now, we're just getting by.
I'm gonna say this, and again, this is 1 out of 7. These are things that I look back over my last 5 years here, because I've said this before. I'm not sitting here to get reelected. I'm gonna do what I think's right, and if they want me to go home, then I'll go home. But I think that every time we come into this conversation, we talk about raising taxes. And I'm looking at this globally, and maybe, Max, you're looking at me, you're probably fixing to disagree with me. Every single person that lives in Johnston County has had a tax reduction over the past 5 years. So we're not raising their taxes. We have been reducing the taxes, and now we are seeing the result of reducing their taxes. The town has reduced their taxes, and the county has reduced their taxes. Because everybody that lives in the city pays 72 cents, I think it is, to the county right now, and the 55 cents to the town of Benson. And the other thing, and I don't know if this number's still true, 1 penny off of us isn't but $30,000. That's not going to fix one employee. Is
Yeah.
that still correct?
It is $34,102.
$34,102. So every time that the county, because the county is seeing growth at the northern end, they are taking advantage of that. And they're also taking advantage of every 8 years when they do the reassessment and the increase in property values to reduce that. As a municipality, just like the other 11 municipalities in this county that are struggling right now, I feel like, me personally, we should be taking advantage of their decrease to help increase the services and the productivity of the town. That's the way I look at it. Again, that's 1 out of 7. Because we were at 78 cents in the county when I came on this board. And I believe they've reduced it to 72 is what they are right now, I believe. And maybe I'm off a penny or two on that. Is it 73? Okay, I told you I may be off a penny. I'm going off of memory. I'm getting older. I told you I was 40. And so I mean, and in essence, every time we get together in the years past budgets, it's been how can we reduce a penny? And I'm telling you, as far as our town is concerned, reducing a penny is a raindrop in a pond. And I don't know how we will ever catch up if we are in the mindset that building industry prices have gone up, labor has gone up, materials have gone up, gas is going up, cost of living's going up, rent's going up, mortgages are going up, interest rates are going up, back up. And I understand that. But the mindset that we're going to stay at 53 or 52 or 55 cents forever and continue to be able to provide the same level of service that we had 5 years ago and not make an increase is absurd. And they can send me home if they don't agree with me. I'm perfectly fine with that. And so I can't help inflation. That is the part of inflation. And the employees can't help that they're getting the inflation and their salaries aren't going up. And that's the way I look at it.
And Commissioner Rayner, I would just say, by my math, if we increase salaries by $1 million, and we've got, this is round at 50 full-time employees, that's a $20,000 increase for each employee. That was not proposed last year.
I remember the number being $320-something thousand.
And that included adding
Bring
positions
them
to.
pages to me, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It added up in a year, it was for 6 months, and then there was a bunch of gaps that we were gonna fill the spaces.
I did not
It was
create.
$920,000.
And you understand, I did not create that pay.
But I'm telling you, that's what it was.
Right. But I
Whoever
didn't-
created it, we were faced with the
Yeah.
deal, we have to spend $1 million.
But you realize that, but you do agree that'd be $20,000 increase per employee if you got 50 employees.
Yes, that's right.
So,
And
so the question is, if we
heard
didn't
that
create
night
that
too
page,
that
can we bring another version of that page back to us this budget year?
I can. I will work weekends to make sure that happens.
We'll get it done.
I mean, because in my eyes, just like Will said, because we finally came back to 2 meetings a month, and I mean, I don't know sometimes if 2 is enough. So, but that's just one. And so, but I'm just going
Plus
to tell
2.
you, I'm just going to tell you that budget season is coming. This is my primary focus, this budget. And so,
And realize, I do not have time to call around to every municipality in this area and get that information. I can pull it, last year's stuff, you're gonna be looking, when you get it, at last year's stuff.
Jucko report.
Jucko report,
Well,
that's where it came from.
Yeah, and they only update once a
That's
year,
all we have time to do.
but we
I
can,
think last year's is on there.
But
It is.
It is, but realize what last year, July 1, of the municipalities is not gonna look like what this year's July 1 looks like. We watch the news, right?
Well,
What's on every night? Municipal employees, other boards are realizing they've got to do something. And I hate that we're in this position, but it's where we are. And it's not gonna get any easier for anybody in this room to have a staff that Benson deserves. If we don't find some way to make that happen. And we have too many people doing too many jobs. And burnout is about to be a real thing. And when our employees burn out, you're gonna get less experience for more money. And I said it at our board retreat, and I was not joking when I said we are at the point where the wheels of this town could really screech to a halt.
I think what you will see in the upcoming budget, and we have had some discussions, is definitely salary adjustments, but also looking at adding some positions to kind of help with some of these labor departments that, we got it done for police, and that was great. We're getting it done for fire. We need to do the same for public works. Electric even needs, I know, they need a couple more guys too. On call, what's killing them is on call. And that's, being on call once every 3 weeks. Dean, you've done that. Yes.
Oh, I
Twice every 3 weeks almost. Yeah, it's rough. And so, trying to give them some relief. And because we also know, development is here, it's coming. Their day to day, some of the guys from Public Works couldn't even go to the lunch because they couldn't stop what they were doing. Because development is coming. It's moving so quickly into town. There's just more and more work that's got to get done, and there's only 8 hours in the day. So, they skipped the lunch and stayed on a site. They were doing water and sewer taps. So, I think you'll see additional staff, probably out of most departments, and a salary adjustment for sure. We'll work on that.
One thing that I would ask, and I'm going to hush after this because I know everybody's getting tired. I come from a competitive business. You can tell Dr. Rayner comes from a competitive business. The way I expect, and I don't want to get into the management. That's your job, and this is where I'm digressing. But I'm going to tell you, in my mind, your job as the interim, because your interim, is to put those department directors together, and y'all say, okay, this is what is feasible of this budget, and y'all decide as department, y'all got to go to bat for your departments and say what, and the way I'm used to it is the fire chief says I need 3 drivers and the police chief says I need 2 and I need this. You bring us what y'all decide the town needs worse, because we know we can't fix it all.
Right.
And then that's what the budget should reflect. And that should be a negotiation between the department directors that are sitting here of which one do y'all think benefits the citizens more when you bring it to us. And I'm gonna try to hush at that. I'm gonna try to hush at that.
And one of the things that we've asked a lot over the last couple months is what type of services does the board want to see come out of us, and what are we willing to pay for? Are we willing to go up on taxes? Are we willing to increase fees at all? If we're not going to increase fees, are we also willing to see some services lack? Now, the priorities you just talked about, services is a top priority. So in order sometimes to get some of these services done, if we have a storm and the lights go out, do you want it back on in 30 minutes or do you want it back on in 6 hours? Because right now we're tracking at 30 minutes, but if we continue to lose people or not have enough staff on hand, you might see that time frame open up a little bit.
And, I think that's not a question that we necessarily should be asked or answer. I think that's a question that the citizens of Benson should be asked, is what services do you want? And, that's a question too that we need to we need to frame that, see, we don't know.
Mhm.
You know, I sure don't, they might know, I don't know. What does it cost to get your lights back on in 30 minutes versus 6 hours? What kind of,
So what's the difference? Yeah.
what's the difference?
And I think we ask you guys because y'all are the ones that are serving for the as you said, y'all are elected, y'all are the ones that talk to the people. I mean, obviously, we talk to them too when we're dealing with them for customer service stuff, but y'all are the ones too that talk to the citizens, especially during election time. So what are y'all hearing as far as what services they want to see? I've seen it on Facebook. They obviously want restaurants, which, that will come when we grow. But a big thing I've seen is they want more things coming out of Parks and Rec. They want more patrol. What else are y'all seeing?
Well, I mean, as far as like park and rec or, restaurants and stuff like that. But another thing too is that I've already heard this already. Our dog park compared to Dunn's.
Mm-hmm.
The way they're set up, they look and everything. I don't know if y'all seen Dunn's or anything. They got a bunch of activities for the dogs to do. So,
See, I don't think, the dog park and the restaurants and that kind of thing, nobody's gonna say, I want my stormwater drainage to work better.
No, but
They don't care about that, they don't care about the cool stuff.
They
But I
do when
think
it doesn't
What'd you
flush.
say?
yeah, but as far as like
They
the
do when it
services
rains, for sure.
that we can provide, like power, water, sewer, stormwater, anything like that, I feel like that once we address the pay issue and the personnel issue, that will go up.
Okay.
It's my opinion.
You do understand that the dog park, though, is on the interstate to draw in travelers, and Dunn's Dog Park,
I know where it's at.
3 miles on the other side of Dunn.
I get that.
Okay.
But imagine. Come
Imagine.
on, Will.
My dog stays in the yard.
I will say, I was raised with wine taste,
What-
and the reason I moved into the city was to have better services than I did on the farm
Just
in the
put-
county.
put
And
it
so
like
I
this.
expect better services.
When I was on with Matt Smith on the Parks and Rec board, me and him talked about it plenty of times. Splash Park.
Mm-hmm.
The residents want it.
And like everything else,
It costs money,
what
yes.
you guys want.
And
I
it'd be,
would I've researched it. I've looked at it. I've looked at reclamating water. I've looked at stormwater. How do you have to figure out where you want it, how much you want to spend on it. They ain't
Yeah.
cheap. So you guys got to decide if we want a splash pad, we're going to pay $200,000 or $150,000.
yeah. But that's the things that, I hear that people want.
Yeah.
Y'all might all attack me for saying this, I get it, but, $34,100 ain't gonna buy no splash park.
No.
So everybody, I think, I've seen it lately with the last iterations we've had. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, every one of us needs to get involved in politics.
Amen.
Yeah.
You need to, that's the only way we're gonna get the things we want. Salaries and everything, it's the only way it's gonna happen.
But not just say like the Splash Park for example. I mean, it's going to, of course, the town residents would use it, but it's also going to draw other people from other communities to come in here. In return, other restaurants or anything, they see that, and that's when they say, "Hey, I need to invest in Benson."
Right.
So it's stuff like
And
that.
from an HR perspective, I don't see 200 or 250,000.
You
What
see,
do I see?
no employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta have people to maintain that. I don't know, do you have to have employees to run it, Matt? I don't even know.
No,
But
well, if you have reclamated water, you have got to have it checked, and people have to check it every single day.
Yeah.
So that could actually.
So, all right,
Right.
so we're gonna pay a salary, we're gonna pay benefits. It's not a $250,000 cost one time.
Oh yeah, I'm
It-
aware of that.
But that is what I'm looking at, because it's coming, right? Whether it's a splash park or whatever it is, that is what we've got to know from you guys. You guys are elected to represent this town and be in touch with your constituents, just like Miss Holly said.
That's exactly right. And my constituents complain constantly about the cost of electricity. Because it is really high for some of them. Might not be high for y'all, but it's high for them.
We also
That's
have,
what I have to think about. Okay? So, yes. And what is our population? Are we even at 4,000?
4,200.
32?
42. 42.
That's what?
39. Everybody throw in a number.
It's not- it's
3,400.
I was
3419.
Okay, we got 32 here.
not-
I'm looking it up. Let me look at the
I had
last.
32.
37,
3419.
37, 31.
37. Clayton, what is Clayton's population? So we can't compare, that's what I'm saying. We cannot compare with Clayton. I don't care. We 32, 37 versus how many in Clayton?
20,000.
All right then, come on, y'all.
Apex.
21,000.
People in the 2015, it was 40,000 people.
They did a county study. We got 215,000 people in the county. By 2050, they expect that to be 365,000.
Yeah.
We've got 170 homes going behind me right now. That's going to bring probably an average of 2 to 3 people in the next 12 to 24 months that these people are going to have to serve.
Right, that is.
And
You
that's
got another one, 72.
you got Honeycutt Street coming, and you're right. You're exactly right. A house doesn't pay for the service that it gets.
No.
Absolutely zero. But I will also say this, and I'm going to go. They're going to beat me down in the club when I say this, but I want to grow the town. If you own I'm not in the restaurant business,
Yeah.
but if you own a restaurant and you charge $40 for a steak, then the people that will come will pay $40 for a steak. And living in the town of Benson is a choice. People choose to live in the town of Benson, and by choosing to live here, they choose to pay the light bill because they want their lights on in 30 minutes or less. And if they don't, then they can choose to move. And they can beat me up for that later, but that is an absolute
they probably
choice.
will.
And that's all right, but that is an absolute choice. And I will also say that the other issue that we have is and I'm really going to go down with this plane, the tenant ratio versus the ownership ratio is killing this town. Because that is why we have such a low tax income, is because of the tenant versus owner ratio in this town. And that is the reason why we can't get restaurants and we can't get services off the ground, because we don't have the income here to justify them, because our income is low compared to areas around us. That's the answer to that question. Because the people that live here will not go support a restaurant 5 days a week. And until the people here are willing to pay the money to support the restaurant 5 days a week, and the restaurant's not going to come. That is the answer to that question.
Yeah. If you'll take that and pass it. So no, you're good. One of the things that I keep hearing is, we've been saying development is coming. I would like to thank Erin and her department. She's come back and she's hit the ground running for sure. But this is a list for you all that this is approved residential subdivisions, minor subdivisions, also commercial developments. This is what Erin has either got permits on, knows it's coming, has done zoning, looked at zoning for them. If she knew what the average home price of the home was, she's listed that for us so we could have an estimation on taxes. But this is what we're up against. This is what we're looking at as a staff level. And this is probably just the beginning. I mean, Erin gets phone calls, I think, pretty much every day. So that's for y'all. We'll keep it updated for ourselves. I can, give this to you guys as often as you want. If you want to say, give it to me once a quarter, we can do that. If you just want to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, shoot me an updated list, we can do that too. But this is what we know right now is coming down the line. So
We don't have the infrastructure in place for this, we can't do it.
we can, but I want you to also remember that this is not just homes. This is services. This is how many people. This is additional people coming to the library, additional people using our Parks and Rec, and even if it's in the ETJ, they're coming to Benson to do these things. So we're looking as a whole as how we're gonna have recreation for them, and how we're going to be able to service them with infrastructure, and how's the library going to serve it. Work and play. That's what we want here. So we're thinking about these things on a department head level about how we're going to service all these people coming in. So there's an updated list for y'all.
So for my calculation, about 280 or 90 houses are on this list that are going to be in town. Does that sound right?
Some of them at ETJ, but
I counted,
just the town ones?
the only one I counted that was ETJ was the future annexation, the town, either town or future
Mm-hmm.
annexation.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, about 300 homes if you count, and that's not really even including the minor subdivisions, the ones that have recently been subdivided out that, haven't, built upon yet, so it's the same, and not even including the potential.
So 300 homes times 3
300.
people is 1,000 people that's gonna get.
Mm-hmm. Say 3 to 4.
West
Yeah.
Hale Street was the latest subdivision that, was within the town limits. It was built out, last year. I think they have maybe 3 lots, two or 3 lots in that 32 lot subdivision that have not sold. The average price was $314,000 as the average home price.
And so for that, you're looking at per home $1,700 a year in taxes. So total, what's out there, the 32 homes. You're looking at bringing in $55,297 for that one subdivision. But that I mean,
That doesn't pay for the
Here-
school.
here's-
doesn't pay for no.
Well, here's,
Well, we don't pay for schools, so
What
don't
really
bring that up.
bothers me, and William probably will not agree with me, but all these 1,400 square foot houses that are selling for 300 and 350,000. We have another 08 or 09, and we're gonna have rental property.
That's exactly right.
We're gonna have 300 houses of rental property because the real estate market could drop. That's why I am pushing so much to get our Mingo project and our other projects in line so we can get the water and sewer. So whatever we have, we're also going to bring in some industry to keep these people in jobs, whatever happens. We went through it with PGI. PGI, we went through 08 and 09. They were talking about shutting the plant down and moving to Tennessee or whatever. They put in, during that period, they put in another $30 million in expansion to keep their employees and bring in more employees during this time. Industry pays the bills. Clayton, we're talking about Clayton turning around. How can they afford $180,000 for a town manager? They're in the same boat that we are, but worse. They called us to find out how are we getting applications for any electrical. It's just we're in a unique situation, but we can be in. We don't want to grow like 42. No, you don't want to be up like that cluster up there, and that's all it is. 5210, McGee's Crossroads doing a little better, but they've got some problems too because they did not sit down and have any vision as to what the town of Benson's looking for. And we've got to write down some visions that we need to look at what's going to happen in the next 10 years. I mean, if we got the money right now, our sewer project right now is 5 years down the road. We're going to start on it, but they will not move in and have everything going in next year this time. So,
Another thing too that we've got to consider that nobody really has is I was listening to a guy today, and this is all opinion, obviously, but there's a lot of people that think there's going to be a recession in 2023.
If I can respond with one thing, and I'm going to tell you what I see when I see this piece of paper. And this is what I have a problem with government in general. We get crucified over approving subdivisions because our school systems are capped. And we've got 2 schools in Benson that are capped right now, which means they can't hold more than 51 more seats, right? The reason that is because we don't communicate with the school board. We don't communicate with the county board. There's no collaboration amongst these boards. So I'm telling you what's fixing to happen, and this is what I see. I see at least 4, if not 5, missed opportunities for us to collaborate with developers in our ETJ to bring them into town. How did Clayton do it? They collaborated with Fred Smith, whether you like him or not, and they built Riverwood.
Oh, I like Fred.
Fred Smith built Riverwood, and he did it in collaboration with the town to improve the sewer system so that they could do it in their unincorporated area, and it brought tax revenue back into the town of Clayton so they could pay their manager $180,000 a year. This is where we're missing, and here's what the county's fixing to do. If you've not seen what they're sitting on the future land use plan that's coming forward, they're going to push all the density, the small lots, to the outskirts of our ETJ, which means if we're not there to handle it, we're going to become a donut. That's what we're going to, there's going to be 11 craters in this county because we refuse to collaborate. How do we refuse to collaborate? And I don't mean this is not your fault, because when you look at that stupid UDO book and they read it on the internet and they read that and say, well, my God, they won't work with us. I mean, they want me to come and build $1 million in sewer to go to Tar Heel Road. Our town doesn't have the forethought to say, well, maybe the town should pay for $300,000 of that $1 million in sewer because in 4 years we're going to get a return on that. And so we never had that. And we have the opportunity coming really soon with this future land use plan. We've already missed 4 or 5 on Tar Heel Road. I had somebody I called the other day to the planning department and talked to Tia, and I said, hey, I got a parcel we need to annex into town. It's right across the street from one of these because he wants to do a subdivision. And they said, well, that's outside the ETJ and we don't have services out there. We can't annex them because we don't provide the services. That's what I told them. Remember telling me that? If we annex somebody in, we've got to provide the services. And so we have to think about the next 20 years. We got to quit looking at our feet walking down the path, and we got to look at 20 years ahead and take advantage of this, or else it's going to be in Newton Grove, and somebody's going to be sitting here in my place in 4 years, and they're going to say, what in the world? They missed it. They just totally missed it because it's all about communication, and it's all and that's the vision that this board has to put together. Is what does this place look like in 20 years? Not what's in front of us right now. Not an electrical supervisor. That's their job. Our board has got to put in the vision, and I bet in 20 years we're going to need 4 of them. And how are we going to get the income to do it? And we can't keep leaning on the people that live in the little city limits. I agree with that. We can't keep leaning on the 3,700 people. We have got to learn to collaborate with the private businesses to grow our income.
Can't you annex somebody in without providing them water and sewer? As long as you provide them police service?
No, you have to give them the same stuff that everybody
I
else
just store on 27 highways in a different county get annexed.
If you do this, if they've already got it through some other source, then you don't have to run it to them.
Look at the
Right, but that's what I'm saying. If they like in his case, Johnson County provides the water, they got septic tank and everything. All we would do, they want to be annexed in. Technically, it'd be fire and police.
Well, look at Grill on the Hill.
Store on 27.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
Yeah, look at
there.
well, look at Grill on the
Joke.
Hill. Here's the question I got from the owner of the Grill on the Hill the other day. They want to put in electronic car chargers because they want to be a stop. We don't have the power service to put out there for them to do it. It's got to be
Duke
phased.
Energy out there, ain't it?
No, they are annexed in. They're on the town lot.
No, I
Are
don't
you
think
sure?
yeah,
I don't think
that is
they're- I don't think
Duke
Grill-
Energy out there.
Yeah.
But
It's
They
about
pay,
where I
they pay
live at.
water and
maybe I
sewer.
misunderstood her request then, but she I mean, but that's what her request is. If we're fixing to update that and in the future plans of DOT is 4-lane, are we going to get those services out there too?
Because like where I live, and Max, I think you're the same thing.
Well, they pay city
We-
taxes, I know that.
We have Duke Energy.
Yeah. Y'all are on
Can you
Duke.
pull up North
They're
Star
on
Look?
Duke.
Yeah, we're on
but
Duke Energy.
North Star and
His
Look.
facility
They
is
have-
in the city limits
they have
because he
electric. Do they have
requested at that time
Huh?
to be in the city limits.
Yeah, but
Right.
they have electric
But
though.
242,
That's
all
the
of that
question.
area,
Yeah, that's Duke
it's
Energy.
not. That-
It's
we
not
don't
Grill on the
even
Hill.
But it's in our
provide
ETJ.
Fire service out there. Do what?
It's in our ETJ.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
if something happens, we need to
Southern
grab
Lights.
it.
But we
Southern
don't have, and if they want to get annexed in, I don't think we have to, as long as somebody else is providing the service, we just have to provide police and fire.
But why wouldn't you want them to? Just like this that we just approved tonight on Morgan Road, they're coming in on our, if I'm not mistaken, that 40 million is coming in on our water, sewer, and power. We're gonna get all the utilities.
Not
of
the
it.
power.
Are you sure?
No, I'm
Is it
positive.
South River? Okay,
South
my bad,
River's
my fault.
power, but that was the reason we were bringing them in.
Yeah.
If we wasn't getting water and sewer, there was no reason
Right.
to bring them into city.
Okay. Okay.
And that was the deal.
Right.
No, we,
Okay.
South River has got that.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking
The
about.
new,
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah. We did, we tried. We tried to get their electric, but no, South
Yeah.
River has that. Yeah.
Next.
This is, what do you?
We beat around a lot of bushes, and I can tell you that I feel really
I
good that
think-
we communicated tonight.
I think we had, listen, and that, I want them to say too, I think we got a lot of, questions that we had answered. What do y'all think?
agree to disagree.
I think that is the point. I think we'll agree. He's the one that requested this second meeting so we could do strategic planning, and I think that this is this is exactly what I hope every second month meeting looks like. I'll be honest with you, and I appreciate y'all being willing to talk to us.
Absolutely, and I'm serious when I say, if you guys want to know what your departments are doing, let me know. We'll schedule a time for y'all to go out, and I'm not gonna put you with a department head. I'm gonna put you with somebody whose boots on the ground and doing the day-to-day. Well, don't tell me it's a government vehicle.
All right. Anybody got anything else, or are we gonna keep going down the agenda?
No, we're gonna.
Okay, have you got a report, town manager?
I have a very brief. I passed out before the meeting. You have 2 proposals for y'all to take home and to look at, and I highlighted some of the major points. But this is for the town manager search. So you have a shorter proposal from the Council of Government. Total cost is $11,400, and you have the list here of what they do. Then you have a proposal from Slavin Management Consultants. Total cost would not exceed $24,149. But he definitely is more of a headhunter than anything, I think. But you have these. I don't want any decisions made tonight unless you want to. But take them home, look at them. We'll have them on the next board agenda for you guys to discuss and maybe vote on what your next process will be. For both, the very first step is sitting down and talking with commissioners. The Council of Government will come to a board meeting. They'll talk with you guys something similar to this. Slavin does it individually, and then he brings all your opinions together and tells kind of gets a group of what everybody discussed, and then brings that to the board. But it'll be what you want to see in your next town manager, whether that be how much experience they have, if they're young, if they're older, like what you want in your next town manager. So that'll be the first step for both of them. What type of what is their wheelhouse? Is it finance? Is it infrastructure? Is it planning? So that'll be your first step with both of them. So we'll bring that back to the next board meeting, and we can have a better discussion. But some good reading material for y'all.
Sounds like a whole nother board meeting. Let me ask one question.
Okay.
And I can get shot down in a hurry. If we could get Alan, I'm not saying take a 2-day, but if we could get Alan to cook, okay, or to feed us, do you think that we could have one meeting that doesn't take care of anything that we have to take care of in a regular board meeting, just like you called this a retreat, really have a 4 or 5 hour retreat so we could get some visions that everybody, some purposes that we need to all sit down and do. I know everybody's got a busy schedule, and here we got the summertime coming up, but I don't see how we're going to get everything completed that we need to do, and we don't need to wait. Well, we can do it next year. We can't wait on some of this stuff till next year to have a board retreat. Do you think that we could put something together without adding another board meeting, 3 board meetings a month, just a one-time deal to take care of some of this.
So like a Saturday, or you want to do like during a weekday?
You can't do it during the week.
Okay. So a Saturday?
Tired like Will.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
I
And
think-
should have done it a year ago.
I think everybody here is okay with that, if you guys are.
Absolutely.
We need to get a
But
a date together.
you may look at it and come up with a date and see if we could all get there.
Okay. I'll send
And
out.
some of these projects, just like the town manager search,
Mm-hmm.
if we can't all sit down, I mean, when we did this before, and when I look at paying somebody 22,000 town managers, I'm looking at bringing people from out of state to apply for this. Looking at this search from North Carolina, I'm looking at people that we could look at maybe out of close proximity to Benson. This request that right here, anyway. If we decide on doing this, I'm just wondering, instead of us, we met once a month for 12 months on hiring Matt Zapp, okay? We started out with 500 and came down. Nobody's for doing that, and that's all we did when we met, is just on the town manager. Everybody doesn't have the time, so could we go out, the town manager search at some point in time is maybe, I know we can't do over 2, but can 2 people go and sit down and start doing some interviews? And then maybe if we get 5 finalists, bring them into the town.
Well, I think the Triangle
I
J,
think-
they get it down like to 8 or 10.
Yeah, what he's saying is maybe not even have a committee, and I
Oh.
think that's up to the board. I think I
don't
do
know
not.
that you can.
I think you guys can create a committee of 2 and have Ike, the attorney, take the applications. I do not think it needs to come through the staff.
No, I don't either.
It did last time. I feel like it did not work well. So they can go to Ike. You can have a committee. Y'all can talk about it, and then you can bring suggestions to the board. That's up to y'all. I mean, that's entirely up to y'all. I was asked to look into these ways of doing it. That's what I'm bringing you. You know, you guys, it's y'all's decision.
We can discuss that on that Saturday.
Okay,
Is that fair?
cool.
All right.
The only other thing is I sent everybody an email about the regional infrastructure conversation. Is anybody available to sit in on this conference call on April the 1st? I know William is not able to. He responded to me.
I'm gone.
I'm not able to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
No,
Friday.
I'm not.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday. It's a Friday from 9:30 to 11.
I'm not sure I'm in town.
Okay. April the 1st,
What time you say?
9:30 to 11.
I can do it.
Okay. Awesome.
Just remind me.
Okay. I will.
Next meeting
What next meeting?
for the veterans.
We're fixing to talk about that.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
wanna
gonna,
hear about that.
what does Jerry call it, whenever she gets done with
I
her
don't know,
report?
but I need to.
I'm
know
done.
When that happens.
Okay,
I'm
all right,
done.
you're done. Okay, she is done. You going over to events? Or have you already done that, the town events?
Oh, sorry. April 1st, you have museum coffee hour at 10. We also have story time at the library. April 8th and 9th is Farm Heritage Day at the Chamber Park. And April 11th is pajama story time at the library. You gonna wear your pajamas? Pajama story time at the library at 6:30.
Kim's done. Ike, have you got anything to
I
add?
have nothing, unless there are questions for me about something.
Board of Commissioners, you want, Dr. Rayner, have you got anything?
I do not.
I don't.
Will?
No.
Ms. Maxine?
Not at present.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Only thing I want to add, and as Jerry says, I'm going to poll the board. because I attended, Commissioner Holly and myself and Jerry have been sitting on a committee that was appointed by this board for the Veterans Park.
Excuse me, you and Jerry have been sitting. I didn't know anything about when the meeting was.
I apologize about that.
Thank you.
I apologize if you did not get that information.
I
from
did
the
not
top.
get it.
So the other night we had a meeting, and this is where we're at. And we're at a point where I've got to have some kind of thing to tell them. And I think Jerry would be doing it if he was here. They have received $60,000 from the county to go towards a veterans park, and they have also solicited several private funds to go towards building a veterans memorial park in the town of Benson. The other night, and Larry Massengill drew plans. This has been something Jerry was working on prior to me being. I've been on 2 meetings, so they've been meeting for over a year. I've been to 2. You've been to 0. It sounds like. So they have drawn plans, and the plans that have been drawn by Larry Massengill, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, were to put it in the Grove. And so the questions that were brought up at the other night meeting when I was there was, do we think the board would allow them to put a memorial park in the Singing Grove or in the Benson Grove? And then the other questions, Kim was there with us the other night. I forgot about that. Yeah, her first meeting. And the other question was, Larry had drawn it to go in the back corner where the bat house was that we tore down. They came up with the idea of moving it to one of the front corners, or option A, or maybe either incorporating it into the center of the Grove right now and kind of going along with the brick pavers and stuff like that's already there in the walkways. Basically, the plans, I know y'all haven't seen them, call for some kind of bench or monument or flag for each of the branches of military, and center seal or center monument of some sort. It would be, like they explained to me the other night, it would be a center seal that's concreted into the ground that you would walk over, and then maybe either like a concrete or a wrought iron bench with each seal of each branch of the military. We are at the point now, from what they've told me, when George Murphy's heading it up, because I believe he's the commander of the Legion, is we've either got to start meeting with contractors or hire an architect or an engineer to do those plans, because Larry did preliminary, right? So before they start spending those funds, I thought it would be a good idea to poll y'all to say, hey, how do y'all feel about a memorial park going into the Grove? And I don't know that I expect you to answer that question right now, but we've not scheduled another meeting because they're waiting to hear back from me on whether we feel like that would pass or not before we start spending money.
You want me to tell you what I think?
Absolutely. I wouldn't ask if you didn't.
My vision of the Grove, it might be fine and dandy. It sounds like a very honorable thing and a wonderful thing. But my vision of the Grove is for it to be a place where they have concerts and things like that. And I wouldn't want the place where people sit be all clogged up with benches and stuff like that, unless you can put a lawn chair on top of it. I could see that, but I think it should go back where it's by the bat house. I don't think I don't like the idea of messing up the place where crowds would sit.
Okay.
I'm good with it going in the Grove. As far as the architecture design, and I'm probably good with it going in the front. You know, the way it's designed. Yeah, I think if it's designed real good with walking pavers and the outlay of it, I think it'd be probably look pretty good.
Now let me ask you: the bat house was in the back
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
toward
Yeah,
the
by the
back?
playground equipment.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Rayner. I wouldn't like to see it become cluttered with benches and stuff either. I mean, because they do have concerts, and those people are out there dancing and enjoying.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to be in the back, you know, it would
Not
be out
only-
of the way.
Yeah, not only that, the Benson Sing. Look how many,
Yeah, that's exactly
how many
right.
people are out there.
But you're only talking, what, 5 benches?
I know it, but
6?
Because they want to pay me.
it's
It's like a
is
30
this
by
one,
30.
is
that's
this
all it is.
anything like, I hadn't seen the plans, but is anything like Dunn's?
Not that big.
No.
This would be a 30-foot by 30-foot pad with brick pavers. This is what the ideas are with brick pavers that people could purchase in memory of their loved ones to put their name on the ground where you could walk on, and then with benches for them to sit on. Commander Murphy did bring up the idea of maybe putting flags like down Main Street, like for each branch of service. So the North Carolina and the state flag are already there, and so he was like, maybe if we put flags, 3 flags on this side and 3 flags on this side, upgrade maybe those poles to make those bigger, because they're really dinky poles anyway. But that's where we're at that. I wanted y'all to know where we were as a committee. That's where we're at this point, and I don't want them to see, they've got to, obviously, they've already been given the funds from the county, but I don't want them to start spending money on plans, and then me bringing me plans that have already been bought and paid for, and them spend $8,000 on plans, and then y'all say, we don't want them in the Grove. And so that's where I'm trying to judge how the board's gonna feel about it.
I think if everybody's seen the plans, or if we could see plans, how it's gonna look, because a 30 by 30 is not real big.
I've got a
30 by
copy.
30, this room, this
It's
is like
room.
20 by 30.
It's small.
No,
It's
this
small.
room right
I'm talking
here.
about, this half.
It's like 30 by 22.
Yeah, I was about to
30
say,
by
so,
30, so
yeah.
I'm not as concerned about that as I am the flags. I know what Dunn's got over there with their flags.
right.
No matter how big the area is, that would be
Or better
that
yet,
would be an ideal place. We own property right on Main Street, a whole lot. Would not that look great in lights right in front of McDonald's there? That property that the town of Benson owns, just like we own the Grove.
or
You've got electrical, you've got stuff.
I like
You
that
could-
idea a lot.
or
Do what?
incorporate
I like
it
that
some
idea.
way out there at the
Oh,
ball
look,
field.
it
We
would
talked
be,
about that as well.
it would be ideal for the town, for people to come in and see that we're celebrating something like
You
that.
know, we did that supposedly because Matt said making the street straight was a big deal, which I never understood.
Yeah.
But if we do that, we could still design it to where we could have that, we would have a dead area out there, and that would be a great way to fill up that dead area is with a.
Yeah, then you know what
be
next thing's
beautiful
gonna be.
right
I like the
there.
idea of being on Main Street, that way we could
That's
drive
what he
past
just
from
said. You could,
95 to
I mean,
Right.
that's, you could put parking over there. I mean, you could put
Yes,
parking
ma'am,
over
that
there.
big lot, we
Yeah, it's
own
big
it.
enough, to park, or you can
We
sell
own
them.
it.
You wouldn't need
The town bought it.
2 or 3. The plans Larry draw had 2,
Right in front
and
of
then
the plan.
maybe 2
Okay.
handicap, 2 regular.
You
I
know,
think he had 4
you
spaces
come
in that
out
corner
there
of the
and
Grove.
you
Yeah.
have to come over,
You know,
it's a
it
dangerous
wouldn't need to be a
intersection.
lot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
the
there's
other-
no light or anything.
The other answer to that, or the other question about that, obviously, is for this board to be thinking about. Just like he said, this is something that is being funded by the county, really by the Legion. They're the one raising the funds to go on town property. So there would have to be some type of agreement between the town and the Legion on who upkeeps it and maintains it. My personal thought of that, if it goes on town property, I think we just assume that as a cost. As the town, I don't think that the fact of the matter is, this is what their fear is, the Legion's numbers are dropping every year because veterans are aging out. And so, I mean, they're under the belief that American Legion may not be the American Legion in 25 or 30 years, and they want to leave something.
Don't we have the same responsibility if it's in the Grove?
Absolutely.
To
And that's
keep
why I
it
say,
up.
but I would have to work out that agreement legally, some kind of contract.
George was in office a while back and mentioned this was gonna be coming up. We talked really briefly about that, and nothing permanent, set in stone, or specific, but I said, well, you know, if there was some kind of fund or mechanism for funding that they had in mind, or could, you know, thought they might be available, if they were worried about the Legion and the, you know, perpetual existence of it, maybe, and to the extent whatever monies they might be able to fundraise would be available for whatever period of time. They could set up some sort of a trust. The libraries takes in money that way from the Kennedy Trust, right? Something like that. I think ultimately it'd be the responsibility for maintenance would come to the town. It's a town facility. It would certainly be awkward, or at least just more complex, to have another entity maintaining it on town property. But if there was funding, George and I didn't get specifics about it, but you know,
What
if
I
there
was
was some
told the other
funding,
night,
maybe
that
if the
funding
trust
was
had
not an
donated
issue.
for that purpose.
Yes, sure did.
They
Said it more
told
than
me
once.
100 funding is not an issue. Everybody said they've already acquired 60,000 from the county for it, and they said they've got a lot of private donors.
Well, I mean more for the
For the upkeep,
perpetual
yeah.
upkeep.
All right.
So, And that may not last forever. They might be able to raise a big pile of money, but
Right.
even big piles of money go away over a long enough timeline,
Yeah.
so.
But what
But
I
if we
just
could
heard
go
from
with-
3 people is y'all would entertain the lot across from Gordon McLean, from the.
Oh, absolutely,
That'd be a
and
great use of that.
if you do that on the front, if you would do that on the front of the Grove, you've got to take some trees down.
Well,
Because you have got poles.
there needs
this
to be some trees taken down anyway.
Well,
But
Something
but you
small.
would,
Something
yeah.
small.
I think you need to I think you need to probably take some trees down and replant some trees, maybe not baby trees, but mature trees. I mean, we've talked about that internally for the last year or so as well. And there needs to be some turf management out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this has been a discussion that's been going on for a long time about the Grove and the Veterans Day, the Veterans Memorial. And, you know, they've talked about, okay, where the bat house was, and then I just heard the other night it's gonna be in the front. To me, it's probably gonna be an unpopular opinion with some of the people that aren't here. That's not the best place for it. The Grove is not the best place. It takes away the specialness of the site. You stick it back in the back of the Grove, and it just becomes a thing. If it's in its own spot, if it's in its own thing, then it becomes special. That, you know, you put it in the front of the Grove, you got people trampling all over it at a concert. You've got, you know, what Max says, there's concerts out there, people out there all the time. So it's not gonna be special anymore. And this has been my thought forever, and I haven't said anything, but that, you know, but yeah, I think it's not the greatest spot to have it in the Grove. The idea of putting it across there and having its own spot, having its own special area, that to me makes it 1,000 times nicer
Welcome
than
to
sticking it in the
Benson.
back corner where
There
Benson.
you go.
No, because
We could get signage and roll it off the 95. I like that.
But, I mean,
I will go back to that board and I will call a meeting and I will let you know when it is scheduled.
Please do.
And then
And,
we
you
will
know,
go from there.
I would like to see a preliminary.
I have a preliminary plat in my car. I should have brought it in.
I would love to see
But,
what they're
I've got one in my car. I'll be glad to show it to
And
you
with
after
that
me.
lot, they may want to do.
But it's a
more.
very preliminary, very preliminary.
If you go with a lot like that, it's by itself, you might have to go bigger in
You
scale.
may want to look at something like Dunn.
Yeah.
You can't find Dunn if you don't know where it is.
That's right. So that is all I've got. If anybody doesn't have anything, I would love to hear a motion to
And I'll
adjourn.
make that motion that we adjourn.
I have a motion that we adjourn. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank y'all, everybody, for everything. Sorry it was a long meeting.
Thank y'all.
Well, you done a good job.
Better.
I'm telling you, you did. I would tell you.